The crystal chandeliers of Le Jardin Blanc cast dancing shadows across pristine white tablecloths as Sophia Bennett willed herself through the entrance of the exclusive French bistro. Her heart fluttered with nervous anticipation, a sensation she hadn't allowed herself to feel in nearly 2 years. The emerald silk dress she wore had taken 3 hours to choose, its flowing fabric carefully selected to drape elegantly over her motionless legs. Her auburn hair cascaded in soft waves past her shoulders, and she'd applied makeup with a trembling hand, each stroke an act of defiant hope. Her cousin Rebecca had insisted on arranging this blind date, calling it a birthday surprise from someone who'd seen Sophia's photo and wanted to meet her. "He's successful, charming, and specifically asked about you," Rebecca had promised, with an encouraging smile. Sophia had hesitated, scarred by past rejections. But something in her cousin's enthusiasm made her want to believe again. The maitre d' guided her toward a corner table near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. Sophia positioned her wheelchair carefully, adjusting the brake with practiced precision. She ordered sparkling water and waited, watching couples lean intimately across tables, sharing whispered secrets and stolen glances. Once, she'd taken such moments for granted. Now, a simple gesture felt like witnessing magic she could no longer access. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Sophia checked her phone repeatedly, finding no messages. The waiter had refilled her water 3 times, his sympathetic glances growing more uncomfortable. Just as humiliation began creeping up her spine, a group of 5 young men in expensive casual wear approached her table with broad grins. "Sophia Bennett?" the tallest one asked, his voice carrying across nearby tables. He had styled blonde hair and a smirk that made her stomach tighten with the knees. "Yes, that's me," she replied cautiously. "Happy birthday." They chorused in exaggerated unison. Before Sophia could respond, a waiter appeared carrying a small cake topped with sparklers. The young men erupted in loud cheers, drawing attention from every corner of the restaurant. Sophia's confusion morphed into dread as she noticed phones emerging from pockets, cameras pointing directly at her. "Make a wish, birthday girl," one shouted, laughing. Another leaned forward and scooped frosting from the cake with his fingers, smearing it across her cheek before she could react. Shock paralyzed her more completely than the accident ever had. A third young man grabbed another handful of frosting and dabbed it on her forehead while the others howled with laughter. "This is comedy gold," someone yelled. "Crippled girl thinks she's getting a real date." The cake toppled as one of them bumped the table, sending frosting and crumbs cascading into Sophia's lap, staining her carefully chosen dress. The sparklers fizzled out in the mess. Cameras clicked and recorded, capturing every moment of her devastation. Someone started singing "Happy Birthday" in a mocking falsetto, and the others joined in, their voices dripping with cruel amusement. Sophia sat frozen, cream dripping down her face, cake soaking through her dress. Her hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair until her knuckles turned white. She looked desperately around the restaurant, searching for anyone who might intervene, but most diners quickly averted their eyes. Some whispered behind raised hands. A few looked uncomfortable but remained seated. No one moved to help. Tears began streaming silently down her cheeks, mixing with the frosting. The young men continued their performance, one even kneeling beside her wheelchair in mock proposal, triggering another round of laughter. Sophia wanted to wheel away, to escape, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Her entire body trembled with humiliation and rage and helplessness. Across the restaurant, Nathan Cross sat with his 6-year-old daughter Emma at their usual table. They came to Le Jardin Blanc on this date every year, the anniversary of his wife Victoria's death. It was the last place they'd shared a meal before a drunk driver had stolen her from them 3 years ago. Nathan had learned to wear his grief like a well-tailored suit, invisible to most, but always present. Emma had been coloring quietly, her small tongue poking out in concentration as she drew another picture of their family. Mommy with angel wings, Emma with her favorite teddy bear, and Nathan holding both their hands. She'd drawn hundreds of such pictures, each one breaking his heart a little more. "Daddy," Emma said suddenly, her voice cutting through his thoughts. Why is that pretty lady crying while everyone's laughing? Nathan followed his daughter's gaze and felt something cold grip his chest. He saw Sophia, frosting smeared across her face, cake ruined in her lap, surrounded by young men recording her humiliation. He saw her tears, her trembling hands, her desperate search for rescue that wasn't coming. And in her expression, he recognized something painfully familiar, the look of someone whose dignity was being stripped away while the world watched in silence. His wife Victoria had worn that same expression in the hospital, when doctors delivered their final prognosis, and she realized her body was failing despite her desperate will to live. The same mixture of devastation and stubborn pride. Trying so hard to maintain composure while everything crumbled, Nathan stood without conscious decision, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. His jaw tightened as he watched another young man lean in to take a selfie with the distraught woman. He'd failed to protect Victoria. He'd held her hand and begged and pleaded, but he'd been utterly powerless. Not this time. Not again. He walked across the restaurant with deliberate strides, his presence commanding attention. The young men's laughter faltered as he approached, some instinctively stepping back. Nathan ignored them completely. He walked directly to Sophia's side, pulled out the chair next to her, and sat down. Then, with infinite gentleness, he reached for her trembling hand. "She's with me," Nathan said quietly, but his voice carried absolute authority. The restaurant fell completely silent. Nathan kept his eyes on Sophia, his thumb brushing softly across her knuckles, grounding her, reminding her she was no longer alone. The young men exchanged confused glances, suddenly uncertain. One attempted a laugh, but it died awkwardly. "I said," Nathan repeated, his gaze finally lifting to pierce through each of them in turn. "She's with me." Recognition dawned on several faces. Nathan Cross, CEO of Crosstech Industries, whose face had been on business magazine covers for the past 2 years. The young men began backing away, muttering apologies, their bravado evaporating. Within moments, they'd scattered, leaving their cruel spectacle unfinished. Nathan turned his full attention back to Sophia, his expression softening. He pulled a clean handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to her without a word, giving her the choice, the control they'd tried to steal. Emma appeared at his side, clutching her drawing, her young face creased with concern. "You're very pretty," Emma whispered to Sophia, "like my mommy was." And for the first time that night, Sophia felt something other than humiliation. She felt seen. The restaurant's ambient noise gradually returned, conversations resuming in hushed tones as diners pretended not to stare. Sophia accepted Nathan's handkerchief with trembling fingers, dabbing carefully at the frosting on her cheeks. The fabric was soft, expensive, monogrammed with the initials NC in elegant script. She worked methodically, trying to erase the physical evidence of her humiliation. Though the emotional residue would take far longer to clean, Nathan remained seated beside her, his posture relaxed but protective. He didn't hover or offer unwanted help, simply maintained his steady presence like an anchor in stormy waters. Emma climbed onto the chair on Sophia's other side, her small legs swinging beneath the table as she studied the distraught woman with the unfiltered curiosity of childhood. "I'm Nathan," he said finally, his voice low and calm. "This is my daughter Emma. We're terribly sorry for what just happened to you." Sophia managed a shaky breath. "Sophia, and you don't need to apologize for them. You didn't do anything wrong." Her voice cracked slightly. "You're actually the only person who did anything right." A waiter approached nervously, clearly uncertain how to handle the situation. Nathan caught his eye and spoke with quiet authority. "Please bring us a fresh tablecloth and clean settings. Also, we'd like to see the dinner menu for 3. He glanced at Sophia. "If you'd join us? I promise the evening can only improve from here." Sophia hesitated, her instinct to flee warring with an unexpected longing to stay. She looked at Nathan's kind eyes, then at Emma's hopeful expression, and found herself nodding. "I'd like that. Thank you." Within minutes, the staff had efficiently transformed the disaster scene. The ruined cake disappeared, replaced by pristine white linen and gleaming silverware. Nathan ordered French onion soup and coq au vin for them to share, along with Emma's insistent request for buttered noodles with extra parmesan. As they waited for the food, An awkward silence stretched between them. Emma broke it with characteristic 6-year-old bluntness. "Why were those mean boys hurting you?" "Emma," Nathan said gently, but Sophia shook her head. "It's all right." She looked directly at the little girl. "Sometimes people are mean because they think it makes them funny or important. But really, it just makes them small and sad." Emma considered this seriously. "My teacher says that hurting people means you're hurting inside yourself." "Your teacher sounds very wise," Sophia replied, surprised by the wisdom from such a young source. Nathan's expression softened as he watched his daughter connect with Sophia. "Emma has strong opinions about fairness and kindness. She gets that from her mother." A shadow crossed his face briefly. Victoria believed the world could be better if people simply chose compassion over cruelty. "Believed?" Sophia asked gently, catching the past tense. Nathan was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his water glass. "My wife died 3 years ago today. Drunk driver ran a red light. She was heading home from volunteering at a children's hospital." His jaw tightened. "The driver walked away with minor injuries." Victoria didn't walk away at all. Sophia felt her breath catch. "I'm so sorry." I can't imagine." "Actually," Nathan said, meeting her eyes, "I suspect you can imagine more than most people." He gestured subtly toward her wheelchair. "May I ask?" Sophia found herself wanting to share, which surprised her. Usually, she deflected questions about her disability, but something about Nathan's openness invited honesty. 2 years ago, almost to the day, I was on my way to present my final design portfolio for graduation. Interior design major, full scholarship, dream internship waiting. She smiled bitterly. A driver was texting, drifted into my lane. I woke up in the hospital 3 weeks later, paralyzed from the waist down. Nathan's expression reflected understanding rather than pity. The driver? 17 years old, first-time offender, community service and a suspended license. Meanwhile, I lost my scholarship, my internship, and eventually my family. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. My father left a month after the accident. Couldn't handle having a broken daughter. My mother became distant, resentful. I ended up living with my cousin Rebecca. The one who arranged tonight's date? Nathan asked, his tone hardening. Sophia nodded miserably. She said someone had seen my photo and wanted to meet me. I should have known better. I did know better. But I let myself hope anyway, and hope just makes the fall hurt worse. Emma reached over and patted Sophia's hand with surprising gentleness. Hope is good. Daddy says Mommy left us hope like a present we get to open every day. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes again, but these felt different, warmer somehow. Your mommy sounds like she was an amazing person. She was, Nathan said softly. She used to say that our scars tell stories of survival, not defeat. Every wound means we were strong enough to keep living. Their food arrived, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Nathan spoke about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs and her determination to become a paleontologist. Emma chattered about her kindergarten class, her best friend Julia, and her current art project involving macaroni and excessive amounts of glitter. Sophia found herself laughing genuinely for the first time in months, the tension in her shoulders gradually releasing. As they ate, Nathan noticed a well-dressed man approaching their table. Gregory Walsh, one of Nathan's business associates, stopped with a curious expression. Nathan, I didn't expect to see you here. Thought you always kept this evening private. Plans changed, Nathan replied evenly. Gregory Walsh. This is Sophia Bennett. Sophia, Gregory is my company's chief financial officer and an old friend. Gregory's eyes flickered to Sophia's wheelchair, then back to Nathan with poorly concealed surprise. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Bennett. Are you in the tech industry? Interior design, actually. Though I'm currently working at a bookstore while I figure out my next steps. Sophia lifted her chin slightly, refusing to appear apologetic for her current circumstances. Sophia has excellent taste, Emma announced. She said my drawing was beautiful, and she meant it. I can tell when grown-ups are lying, Gregory chuckled. High praise indeed. Well, I'll leave you to your dinner. Nathan, we should discuss the Morrison contract this week. He nodded politely and departed. But not before Sophia caught his backward glance. Clearly intrigued by Nathan's unexpected companion, after dinner, Nathan insisted on ordering dessert, a proper birthday cake. Small and elegant, with delicate sugar flowers and a single candle. When it arrived, Emma clapped her hands excitedly. "Make a wish, Sophia. A real one this time." Sophia closed her eyes, and for the first time in 2 years, she wished for something beyond simply surviving. She wished for the courage to hope again. When she blew out the candle, Emma cheered, and Nathan's smile reached his eyes in a way that suggested he hadn't smiled like that in a very long time. As the evening wound down, Nathan signaled for the check. The restaurant manager, Linda Chen, approached personally. "Mr. Cross, I want to apologize for the incident earlier. Those young men have been banned permanently. We should have intervened sooner." "Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that," Nathan replied. Outside the restaurant, the city lights glittered against the night sky. Sophia felt reluctant for the evening to end, but she knew it must. "Thank you for tonight. Both of you. You turned something horrible into something I'll actually want to remember." Nathan reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card, which he placed gently in her hand. "I meant what I said earlier about hope. Don't let tonight's beginning define your story." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "I'd like to see you again, if you'd allow it. Not out of pity, think we've both had enough of that to last a lifetime, but because talking with you tonight felt like the first real conversation I've had in 3 years." Sophia looked down at the card, her throat tight. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. For whatever this might become. Then we'll take it slowly," Nathan said simply. "No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who understand what it means to rebuild after everything falls apart." Emma hugged Sophia's waist suddenly. "Please come see us again. You make Daddy smile like he used to." And in that moment, holding a business card and a child's embrace, Sophia felt the first crack in the walls she'd built around her heart. 3 weeks passed before Sophia gathered the courage to call the number on Nathan's business card. It sat on her nightstand like both a promise and a threat, representing possibilities she'd taught herself not to pursue. Each morning, she'd wake and see it there. Each night, she'd fall asleep, having talked herself out of reaching out. What could someone like Nathan Cross possibly want with someone like her? He was a CEO, a father, a man who moved through the world with confidence and purpose. She was a bookstore clerk in a wheelchair, living in her cousin's spare room, existing rather than living. But Emma's words haunted her. "You make Daddy smile like he used to." What if she could be that for someone? What if someone could be that for her? Finally, on a Thursday evening, Sophia sent a text message to the number on the card. Just 2 words, "Thank you." She stared at her phone for 20 minutes, alternating between hoping for and dreading a response. When it came, it was simple. "Coffee? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. There's a bookshop cafe near your work called the Reading Room." Sophia smiled despite herself. He'd remembered where she worked. The next afternoon, she arrived 15 minutes early, positioning herself at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Nathan arrived precisely at 2, his hand firmly clasped in his. The little girl spotted Sophia immediately and ran over, presenting a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you," Emma announced proudly. Sophia unfolded the drawing to find 3 stick figures holding hands, a tall one, a smaller one in what appeared to be a wheelchair, and a tiny one in the middle. Above them, Emma had written in careful letters, "My family." The misspelling made Sophia's heart clench. "It's beautiful," Sophia whispered. "Thank you." Nathan ordered coffee for himself and Sophia, hot chocolate for Emma. They fell into conversation easily, as if the 3 weeks had been 3 hours. Nathan spoke about his company's latest project, a sustainable energy initiative. Sophia described a client at the bookstore who'd special ordered 20 copies of a romance novel to distribute to nursing homes. Emma contributed observations about her classmate's pet hamster, which had recently escaped and been found in the art supplies cupboard. As Emma wandered to the children's section, Nathan's expression grew more serious. "I need to tell you something, Sophia. Something I should have mentioned that first night, but the timing never felt right." Sophia felt anxiety spike. "Okay. After we met, I couldn't stop thinking about your story. The accident, the timing, the driver's age. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through files. My company has a charitable foundation. One of our initiatives covers rehabilitation costs for accident victims whose insurance falls short. We work with hospitals to identify cases where financial burden prevents proper recovery. Sophia's stomach dropped. Nathan, what are you saying? 2 years ago, a case came across my desk. Young woman, severe spinal injury, inadequate insurance coverage. Her rehabilitation facility recommended intensive therapy that might restore partial mobility, but her family couldn't afford the difference. Our foundation covered it anonymously. He met her eyes. Sophia, that was you. The calf seemed to tilt. Sophia gripped the edge of the table. You paid for my therapy? Before you even knew me? I didn't know it was you specifically until I saw your medical records mention the same accident date and driver age you told me about. I had my assistant pull the file to be certain. Nathan leaned forward. I'm telling you now because you deserve to know, but also because I need you to understand I didn't intervene at the restaurant because of some prior obligation. I had no idea who you were that night. I acted because it was right, not because I'd written a check 2 years ago. Sophia's mind reeled. The therapy that had given her core strength, upper body mobility, and hope for potential future recovery, Nathan had made that possible. The expensive equipment, the specialist consultations, the extended treatment schedule her cousin Rebecca had somehow managed to secure, it had all been him. Rebecca knows, Sophia said suddenly. She knows you paid for my treatment. That's why she set up the date at that specific restaurant. She knew you'd be there on that anniversary. Nathan's jaw tightened. What? She works as an administrative assistant at a medical billing company. She would have seen the foundation's name on the payment records. Sophia felt nausea rising. She set me up to be humiliated in front of you specifically. She wanted you to see me as pathetic, helpless. Maybe she thought it would make you regret your charity. Why would she do that? Nathan asked, though his expression suggested he was beginning to understand. Because she's been leveraging my dependence for 2 years, Sophia said bitterly. Every rent payment, every accommodation, every scrap of help, she reminds me constantly that I owe her. But if I could walk again, if I became independent, she'd lose that power. Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. Speaking of your cousin, she's here. Sophia turned to see Rebecca entering the cafe, her designer handbag swinging purposefully. She spotted them immediately and marched over, her expression a mix of surprise and anger. So this is where you've been sneaking off to, Rebecca said, ignoring Nathan entirely. I should have known you'd latch onto the first man who showed you attention. How desperate can you be? Rebecca, this isn't the time, Sophia said quietly. Oh, I think it's exactly the time. Ika turned to Nathan now, her smile sharp. Has she told you she can barely support herself? That I've been housing and feeding her for 2 years? That without me, she'd be in some state facility? Nathan stood, his presence suddenly commanding. Actually, without you, Sophia would have received anonymous charity without the side helping of emotional manipulation. You've been using her vulnerability as currency for your ego. Becca's face flushed. Excuse me, who do you think you are? Someone who's seen enough. Nathan pulled out his phone again, displaying an email. This is a message from the bookstore's owner. Sophia's been offered the position of lead buyer and event coordinator, with a substantial raise and flexible scheduling. The owner has been trying to promote her for months, but someone's been intercepting the emails. He looked directly at Rebecca, someone who has access to Sophia's email account and has been declining opportunities on her behalf. Sophia gasped. What? There's more, Nathan continued. 3 interior design firms have reached out about freelance consultations. A disability advocacy group wants her to speak at their annual conference. An accessible housing nonprofit needs a design consultant. His voice remained calm, but steel-edged each word. All declined by emails sent from Sophia's account, but not written by Sophia. Rebecca's composure cracked. You have no right to. I have every right to protect someone I care about from a predator who happens to share her DNA. Nathan's gaze was ice. Here's what's going to happen. Sophia will be moving into a fully accessible apartment that my company's real estate division has been preparing for one of our projects. Rent will be covered as part of a housing accessibility initiative until she's on her feet financially, which given these job offers, won't be long. You'll provide her with all her belongings by Sunday, and you'll never contact her again unless she initiates it. You can't just. Rebecca sputtered. I can, and I have. Nathan's voice dropped lower. And if you attempt any retaliation or harassment, I will ensure every medical billing company in the city knows exactly what you did. Interfering with the patient's communication and care opportunities is grounds for professional termination and possible legal action. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Then she spun on her heel and stormed out, her exit diminished by the jingling calf door chime. Sophia sat in stunned silence. Emma had returned during the confrontation, and now she wrapped her small arms around Sophia's shoulders. It's okay. Daddy fixes things. He's really good at it. Nathan sat back down, his hands shaking slightly despite his calm exterior. I'm sorry. I probably should have discussed that with you first before going nuclear. You, Sophia's voice broke. You gave me back my life. Twice. No, Nathan said gently. I gave you resources. You're the one who has to choose what to build with them. That's all you, Sophia. That's always been you. And for the first time since the accident, Sophia felt something shifting inside her, not the return of physical sensation, but something more profound. The return of agency. The return of possibility. The return of herself. 6 months transformed everything. Sophia moved into the accessible apartment Nathan's company had prepared, a bright, modern space with wide doorways, roll-in shower, and adjustable counters. More importantly, it was hers. No debt attached, no guilt levied, just a clean slate and enough stability to rebuild. She accepted the bookstore promotion, diving into her work with renewed passion, planning author events, curating collections, designing the store's seasonal displays. It rekindled the creative energy she'd thought the accident had stolen. The design firms that had reached out became steady freelance clients, appreciating her eye for accessible yet beautiful spaces. Slowly, carefully, she rebuilt not just her career, but her identity beyond the wheelchair. Nathan remained a constant presence, but he'd kept his promise about taking things slowly. They met for coffee twice a week, always with Emma. They attended Emma's school play together. They spent a Sunday afternoon at the Natural History Museum, where Emma lectured them extensively about pachycephalosaurs. Their relationship grew in the spaces between romance and friendship, something deeper than either a recognition of shared trauma and shared strength. But Sophia wanted more. She wanted to reclaim the parts of herself the accident had stolen, not just career and independence, but physical capability. She wanted to dance at Emma's future wedding. She wanted to walk through a home she'd designed. She wanted to stand beside Nathan rather than always looking up. Dr. Patricia Morrison, the physical therapist Nathan's foundation had originally connected Sophia with, had cautiously mentioned experimental treatments, new neurological research, intensive therapy protocols that showed promise for incomplete spinal injuries like Sophia's. It won't be a miracle, Patricia had warned. It will be months of excruciating work, and success isn't guaranteed. You might regain partial mobility, enough to walk short distances with assistance, or you might see no improvement at all. Sophia had asked for the paperwork that same day. The treatment began in January, brutal from the first session. Electrical stimulation therapy sent jolts through her deadened nerves, trying to wake pathways that had been silent for years. Hydrotherapy pushed her muscles beyond their atrophied limits. Specialized exercises left her sobbing with exhaustion and frustration. Some days, she couldn't feel anything except pain. Other days, she'd swear she felt a phantom sensation in her toes. Though Patricia cautioned against false hope, Emma became her most dedicated cheerleader. The little girl visited 3 times a week, arriving with new drawings, each one depicting Sophia in various stages of standing. "This is you tomorrow," Emma would announce confidently, holding up a stick figure with slightly bent legs. "And this is you next week," showing a figure with straighter posture. She taped them to the therapy room wall, creating a gallery of optimistic expectations. Nathan watched from the observation area during sessions he could attend, his knuckles white as he gripped the armrest of his chair. Sophia knew it cost him something to witness her pain, to see her struggle, knowing he couldn't fix this for her. But he showed up anyway, his presence a silent promise that she wasn't alone in the fight. 3 months in, progress remained frustratingly minimal. Sophia could sometimes feel pressure when Patricia pressed hard on her feet. Sometimes she could flex her toes slightly, though whether from genuine nerve recovery or muscle memory, no one could say. She'd cry in the shower afterward, letting the water hide her tears from the world. Then came an ordinary Tuesday in April. Emma arrived for her regular visit, bouncing with her usual energy. She'd brought a new drawing, this one featuring all 3 of them at a beach, with a bright yellow sun and improbable purple sand. She ran into the therapy room ahead of Nathan, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. And then she tripped. Emma's shoe caught the edge of a floor mat, sending her sprawling forward. She cried out, more from surprise than pain, but the sound cut through Sophia like a blade. "Emma!" Sophia shouted. Everything that followed happened in slow motion and lightning speed simultaneously. Sophia's hands gripped the parallel bars she'd been using for balance exercises. Patricia was across the room, too far away. Nathan was just entering, too far behind. Emma lay on the floor, more startled than hurt, but Sophia's entire body reacted with pure instinct. She pushed up. Fire exploded through her legs as muscles that hadn't borne weight in years suddenly activated. Her knees threatened to buckle, but fury and determination and love, so much love, kept them locked. Her vision tunneled. She could hear Patricia shouting something, could sense Nathan frozen in shock, but all that mattered was Emma. Step. The word echoed in her mind like a command from somewhere primal. Her right leg moved forward, dragging, heavy, but moving. The parallel bar shook under her desperate grip. Another step. Her left leg followed, the motion clumsy and graceless, but real. Undeniably real. 3 steps. 4, 5. Each one an agony and a victory. Then she was there, collapsing to her knees beside Emma, pulling the little girl into her arms. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Emma's eyes were wide with wonder. "Sophia, you walked to me." The therapy room erupted. Patricia rushed over, her professional composure shattered by tears. Nathan dropped to his knees beside them, his arms encompassing both Sophia and Emma, his face buried in Sophia's hair. No words, just shaking shoulders and the relief of witnessing the impossible become real. Sophia clung to Emma, her legs screaming, her arms trembling, her heart threatening to burst through her ribs. "I walked," she whispered, as if saying it aloud might make it disappear. "I actually walked." "You did," Nathan said hoarsely. "You incredible, stubborn, amazing woman. You did it." Recovery accelerated after that day. The breakthrough seemed to unlock something in Sophia's nervous system, as if her body had simply needed the right motivation to remember how. Within weeks, she could walk short distances with a walker. Within 2 months, she managed her apartment with only occasional wheelchair use. The process remained painful and exhausting, but every step was a reclamation of self. Nathan proposed 3 months later at a charity gala. His company hosted an annual event to raise funds for accident victim support services. Sophia had insisted on attending, had spent weeks designing her dress with an adaptive fashion designer, had practiced walking in heels with Patricia's nervous supervision. The ballroom glittered with hundreds of guests, all dressed in formal elegance. Sophia entered on Nathan's arm, walking slowly but steadily, her hand resting lightly on his for balance rather than support. The crowd didn't know her story, but Nathan's colleagues and friends did. A ripple of recognition moved through the room, followed by spontaneous applause that swelled as she crossed the floor. Emma waited at their table, wearing a dress she'd insisted matched Sophia's. "You look like a princess," she declared. "Like a real one, not just a pretend one." Midway through the evening, the event's host called attention to the stage, inviting several beneficiaries of the foundation to share their stories. Sophia hadn't known Nathan had added her to the speaker list until Emma grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the stage stairs. Emma. I can't, Sophia protested. Those stairs, yes. You can, Emma said with 6-year-old certainty. I'll help. And so Sophia climbed 5 stairs to a stage in front of 300 people. Emma's small hand in hers, each step documented by the photographer Nathan had hired for the event. At the microphone, Sophia shared her story: the accident, the despair, the humiliation at the restaurant. In the moment, a stranger's kindness reminded her she was still human. I thought my story ended the day I lost my ability to walk, she told the hushed crowd. But really, that was just the prologue. The real story began the night someone saw past my wheelchair and saw me. Nathan joined her on stage then, Emma trailing happily behind. He took Sophia's hand, and even those who didn't know them could see the electricity between them, 2 people who'd lost everything and somehow found each other in the wreckage. Sophia Bennett, Nathan said, his voice steady but his hands trembling. You've spent 6 months relearning how to walk, but you've spent the last year teaching me how to live again. He dropped to one knee, and the audience gasped. From his pocket, Nathan withdrew 2 small boxes. He opened the first, revealing a delicate ring with a single perfect diamond. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down Sophia's face as she nodded, unable to speak. Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, then opened the second box. Inside was a vintage watch, beautifully restored, its silver face gleaming under the stage lights. This was Victoria's, Nathan said quietly. The watch I gave her when we first met. It stopped the day she died, and I never had the heart to fix it. He turned the watch over, showing Sophia the back. Beneath Victoria's engraved initials, a new inscription had been added: Time begins again. He fastened it around Sophia's wrist, and as he did, Emma threw her arms around both of them. We're a family, she shouted joyfully. A real family. The ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. Sophia stood between Nathan and Emma, wearing another woman's watch and a new ring. Her legs aching but strong, her heart finally believing in second chances. She'd walked into that restaurant 6 months ago, certain her story was over. Now, standing on a stage, in heels she'd sworn she'd never wear again, holding hands with a man who'd seen past her scars and a child who'd given her reason to keep fighting. Sophia understood that her story was only just beginning. Sometimes the cruelest moments break us open just enough to let the light in. Sometimes falling apart is the first step toward becoming whole. And sometimes, when you're drowning in darkness, a stranger's hand reaches out and reminds you that you're worth saving, and more importantly, that you were never really lost at all.